It's really cool to see to be here tonight and to see a lot of you. I've stood here before, but no doubt about it, standing here tonight with even more appreciation and gratitude than the first time. So I'm so damn pumped to get rocking. Usually the combine begins with a checklist, what's next, and it's a staff, and it's the start of free agency, it's the beginning of the draft and the interviews that go with that. But with us, really right now, it's also what's now. And that's the type of urgency that we're looking for. We want to absolutely go for it in every single way. It was that way from the staff of making sure we could absolutely try to nail each and every position as we're going. Same way through here from the combine and into the free agency and into the draft. So we just absolutely want to let it rip. I spoke at the presser at my first one about recalibration and of a team and doing that together. And I think more than anything, it's finding our identity together. And that has been one of the fun parts of getting started on something new. It's the relationships that you have and that you get to build. There's obviously a lot of new relationships for me here with the job, from Adam and myself, through scouts, through coaching, and to have ways to connect that. That's absolutely been one of the highlights so far of the job of building those relationships. And I know we're not going to miss one step along the way to do that, because we just want to keep nailing each of the processes. So with all that said, man, let's get rocking and open up to you guys for some questions.
Sherry Burris, NFL Network. How does what you guys do this week sort of set the tone of what you guys want to do as you look also to free agency?
Yeah, Sherry, I think one of the things that I do enjoy about this time is the interview portion. And you're really trying to get into, not the ball player, but the man, and find out what they are, what they stand for. And we're looking for that kind of competitor, that kind of toughness. And so you ask some leading questions to find those answers. But I enjoy that part as much as any. It might be running back, it could be defensive end, it's that quarterback, but just digging in, behind the scenes about the person first. And then if we get that part the way, that we think it fit and be together, then the tape and that stuff comes in second.
Your coach Dan D. Orlando Ledbetter, Atlanta Journal-Constitution. The second time, given this second opportunity, what are some of the big, changes and growth since your Atlanta days as you step into that position as a head coach for the second time?
Well, who better to think about Atlanta than you? And I would say it's been 1,234 days since I was let go. And so there has been plenty of opportunity led to make sure that I thought a lot about this. And from the staff standpoint, from the processes that need to go in place, the personnel, the scouting, my involvement with them. And so more so now than ever, I've really had a chance to reflect and do that. And so every once in a while, you're at the right place at the right time in your life and in your career. And I certainly feel like that's this place right now for me. Yeah, I think it was an absolute awesome experience for me, and for a number of reasons. One, from a defensive standpoint, to go in and say these were changes I had to make. So it was almost like in a microcosm of the changes I had to make. I started on the defensive side. I started on those things that I could do better, and so I took a shot at doing that. Certainly from Mike, I learned a lot, all the way from philosophy of a team, of a staff, of a program, of a locker room, and all the important markers along the way. I thought, the teams there, he threw a hell of a training camp. Like every step of, how to do things and not missing it, he was super detailed in that process. And so having the 3 years with Mike was huge. Having the years with Jerry and Steven and Will McClay, like I'm a better coach for that time with them. And so those people, those players will always have a special spot in my heart, because without them, I wouldn't have had this opportunity here. And so I certainly appreciate it.
One more, that they need to take the next step. You've been there the last 3 years. What's holding the Cowboys back?
I don't know that, and I wish I did, because part of the reason for going back there last year was to absolutely go for it in the biggest way. And so to come up short in that end, no doubt about that, that hurt and that left a mark. But I think as a competitor, you keep going back. You keep getting back in the fight, and you find, the small edges and the small margins to do that. And I know that they will. They've got a really strong and solid locker room. And if you have that part right first, that gives you a real chance to make your mark. 1,234. It was easy to remember, 1, 2, 3, 4 for today. So I did not plant that question with lead. I want to put that on the record. But I think what it verifies is I had time to think about this, and I had time to go plan this and visit with people and make sure that every stop that I wanted to do it better, that I found ways to do that. And so that's why this time and those 3 years were super important for me. And I wasn't going to rush into something that you couldn't absolutely kick ass and go for it at the highest level, because that's the only way I want to go after it. And so it took a while. It took a while to get to that space, and like most things that are really important do take some time. It took me that time to do that.
Dan Todd Archer with ESPN, we haven't had a chance to talk to you since the playoff game. What happened in your mind against the Packers? Have you done any kind of after look back at that game and see?
Yeah, of course. That was a huge after action to find why that performance wasn't to the standard, that we had set. And I wish there was one thing to say, this is one thing that we could have done differently in that space, because those games are the ones that leave a scar. They were hard to deal with. The team had been an excellent tackling team, creating takeaways, and so not having to be in the same space for that hurt and that stung. But if there was one thing that you would have put your finger on, you certainly would have done that early to go. But the team had been excellent at not allowing explosive plays, and certainly in that game more than was needed.
Dan, you worked with Adam Durden for a long time. What have been your thoughts on him as a coach and get the chance to work with him?
Well, one, I'm super proud of the man, and so AD started with us through the fellowship program in Atlanta, and then hired on, as an assistant to there. And so seeing the last, 7 years together with him and seeing a person grow at these rates that were just remarkable to see. And so one of his superpowers is building a connection between people. And he's a master teacher and a master connector of people. And I thought, going there, I'd help mentor on the D-line. He didn't need my help on that. He was ready to go, but I'm super proud of him. He's going to do great things up in Seattle. His connection, his ability to teach is really one of the things that sets him apart, and they're very fortunate to have him.
You worked with Mike Parsons for his entire NFL career. What did you kind of learn about him as the years progressed, and as the Cowboys try to get him an extension done? Just how important was he to everything you were doing here?
He was super important. One of the fun parts about Mike is he pushed me to think differently. And I think that's when you have a rare player of how do you find unique things about them and then try to feature those in that way. And I think he was probably the most rare that I was able to find. He could be off the ball, on the ball, rush over a guard, move over to a tackle. And so first and foremost, you have to be a really smart person to be able to play those kind of different positions, and he is. And then you have to have the competitiveness to say, I can go attack him and go attack him, because as you know, the better you get more attention. And so you have to then find ways to beat a chip and beat a double team and find unique ways to do that. So it was fun to go through that process with him. I'm super proud of him, of the trajectory that he's on. And I think, he's going to continue on in that way.
How tricky was it for you in terms of, like you said, you can do so much? You guys had a need at linebacker, but he's also a great pass rusher. How did you kind of work through all that?
I think finding it out. You had to explore it. You had to try it, because for him in Penn State, he wasn't as much defensive end as we utilized him into that space. So finding unique ways to do it, and when he answered it, more of that, and just putting a player like him in the spots they can do their thing. And that's what I enjoy most, on the coaching, is finding all these unique things that a player can do, and then how do you feature them on offense or defense or, in the return game. And so I look back even, for the guys who were in the Hall of Fame of I was super proud of some of the class for this year, whether it was Freeney or Hesterd, of guys who had these really unique traits and they could do that one thing better than anybody. And so for Dwight, he could set up a bull or a spin and the tackle didn't know which one. And for Devin, his ability to accelerate and cut and make somebody miss and break normal touchdown saving angles, those are things that they had unique stuff. And so as a coach, that's our job to try to find ways to do that. And those are examples of those guys found their superpower and were able to absolutely let it rip. And I enjoy that part of seeing that happen.
Dan, you've been around a lot of very good quarterbacks.
Absolutely, people are breaking the rules, so keep letting it rip.
Sorry. And different styles too. Thinking about all the guys who've been around the best ones, what are the qualities that you have to have in a quarterback? What are the must-haves that
Well, I'd say number one, you better be really tough, mentally, physically tough, because there's going to be times when the person is open on the physical toughness. You got to stay in there to deliver it, into the right spot. I think you have to have the mental toughness to withstand all that's going on and keep your focus right here on the team, right with the group that you're with. As far as like a performance side, I think you better show accuracy on the deep ball, because when those moments for explosive plays are there's a single high coverage, it's a man-to-man, it's an all-out blitz, and you nail those moments, that's where the explosive plays are driven. So you certainly want to look for a quarterback who can get out of a bad play. In our NFL, it doesn't just all time up evenly. I think if you guys look at the stats, we had more mobile scrambling quarterbacks this year than maybe at any time over the last 20 years. And so a lot of that is when a play breaks down, they can go create and get on the move to go. And so how do you speed up when a blitz is coming and it's not there yet and you buy time to let that happen? Those are traits that are hard to measure. They're not accuracy. How do you get out of a bad play? There's not a metric for that. How do you speed up a throw that the blitz is coming? It's not quite there yet, but you have to get rid of it early because you're about to get drilled. Those are things that you look for. And so that's why at that position, the tape, you have to find that. You have to get out of bad plays. You got to be able to speed up. You got to show that kind of toughness. And there's all sorts of ways to look at it. I can certainly remember during my time in Atlanta inviting Ron Wolf down to training camp just so I could spend 2 days with him evaluating quarterbacks that were in that year's draft. What did you see and what did it look like? And I can remember we were watching one player and there was an interception and he had said, wind that back. And I was thinking he was thinking about the interception. No, you can let it run now. And it was to see how hard was the player going after that had the interception. So like he wasn't looking at the mechanic of the throw, he was studying the person and the competitiveness of stuff. So I think there's a lot of details that go into that position. We'd probably have a really long press conference on it, but it's also what makes my job and Adam's job really fun, to make sure you're finding somebody with rare, unique stuff and then develop it over and over and over.
Dan, you talked to Seattle. Do you feel like things got closer at all with the Seahawks, or how do you feel like that went?
I think I'm where I'm supposed to be. Well said. All right.
You got time for 3 more. Reminder, name and affiliation, please.
Travis Mack, Vegas in Sports. There's been lots of speculation as to who the quarterback will be for y'all in this coming season. But who do you both expect and need to step up on the offensive side to help?
Well, I think on any team, and certainly one that we want to be a part of, to say the run and the play pass, that really has to go hand in hand. And so that's where a lot of the explosive plays comes. Big run, then it comes back to a play pass. So having that kind of balance is super important. So for all of us, we certainly, obviously there's some good skill players on the team, but allowing the run game to flourish makes some of the big explosive passes come to life. So having that balance, having the ability to run the ball, now play passes, now big plays that come off it, that's balance. And if you can get that part right, those are the hardest teams to go against, because if you're just one or the other, most good defenses can find a way to do that. But if you have the balance, move a quarterback out of the pocket, make it look like a run, that's when you make it the most challenging.
Time for 2 more.
Sam Quinn with Washington Post. Is there anything specifically that you guys do that's maybe a little different to get the most of these interviews?
I don't know if it's anything different, but it is one that having the ability to have as many touch points as you can. So even if some of our coaches are back in Washington doing that and do nighttime Zoom. So Adam and I in a room, now a Zoom, then some video, the college scout who's in the area. So I think just finding those spaces to go. But more than anything, this is almost the first touch point in a lot of spaces to get to know the man. And there'll be other ones. There's, the pro days and visits there and 30 visits. So there's a lot, obviously, that goes into it. And we want to make sure that we're not going to be for everybody. Like, we were looking for absolute guys that are willing to go for it and show that kind of toughness and speed and finishing ability. And so that's going to be a priority for us. And so we want to make sure that each and every guy that has there's a specific role of how they'll get it on with us.
Last one.
Sorry, can you step out and watch that? Do you still find value in having folks here physically at the combine versus just doing everything?
I do, and I think the best parts of the combine are those interactions with the players. And so the on-field stuff is easy to see now. It's on high-def TV. You can see movement to stuff, but getting to know, the ball player, what he's about, what's his why, what are the things that drives him. If there was something that had jammed him up in the past, who would be coming with them, if they moved to this city, just knowing their family backgrounds. And it's very complex for a player coming out today. And they've been exposed to NIL deals from college. They've been exposed to transfer portals. And so I think the player who's coming out today, they have probably a deeper story in some aspects than others do. And I think it makes those connections, Nikki, even more important to find out, why'd you stay when everybody said to go or you weren't the starter? And I think those kind of examples of resilience and finding ways, or conversely, a player that had to go to another place to find their opportunity, there's just more stories and more depth to it, Nikki. So I think that, to me, is where it is. The evaluations with Adam and his guys on the physical traits of the players, that's going to stay consistent no matter where we're at. But finding who the person is inside the helmet, inside the rib cage, that starts in moments like now.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
All right, you guys have a good one.